Hi everybody, my name's Yvette. I'm coming to you from Yvette Marie's Fine Arts and Crafts, and today I'm just going to show you how to use the Ruffle yarn or fabric to create the ruffle scarves. Now I'm going to be knitting in this particular video, so you'll probably want to be a little bit of a seasoned knitter at this point to use this video. I do have a video for beginners that will be a lot more detailed and slower in the actual process. But this video is just to show people who are already familiar with knitting how to create this particular scarf in a quick, easy fashion. And I'll share some tips and tricks that I have found make the process a little bit easier in working up your scarf. So this is going to be a pretty quick video. I'm not going to actually make the whole entire scarf. This will get you started so that you can make the scarf on your own, and you can just keep working it in the same fashion through the whole thing. So one of the first things that I found that helped the process go a lot quicker is when you get your skein of the ruffle yarn or the ladder yarn or mesh yarn, is to go ahead and open it up, stretch it out, and take a little bit of time. It takes about half an hour, maybe 40 minutes or so to do this. And just to go ahead and take the full skein, gently stretching it, placing it around a toilet paper roll or paper towel roll or something similar to work with. I prefer a toilet paper roll just because it's shorter and you don't have that big long roll sticking out. Even though it takes about a good half an hour, a little more to do this process, it does take quite a bit of time off actually making your scarf once you get started. The reason is that you have to keep going through every few inches or every couple feet, and you have to keep stretching it out so that you can reach these little holes easily so that you can work with them. So that's just one tip that I found a little bit easier. I will be using a size 10 knitting needle for today's project, and there is no actual set size to use for these yarns. Some of the yarns, when you purchase them, you'll notice that some of them have holes that are fairly small. This is one of the smaller size holes that I found in the sachet, Red Heart sachet one. Otherwise, some of the other brands have holes that are a lot bigger, and so you can use just a little bit of a bigger needle, but these are size 10 for today. So this is just going to be a quick, easy video here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take my yarn and I'm going to fold it in half with this portion facing towards me. Now some people just prefer to use the first hole on the top of the ladder. Some people use the second one. I prefer to use the first one. I find it's just as secure, and it doesn't really give a lot of room, I suppose, but I think it takes away some of the bulk in the scarf around that particular part as you're knitting it. So I'm going to take 3 or 4 inches or so, and I'm just going to fold it towards me. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to find, I'm going to make sure I line up these holes as I'm working it as well. And I'm going to take my needle going in from the back in that first hole, and then I'm going to skip the second hole and I'm going to go into the third hole from the back. I'm going to skip that next hole. Now this first little row is going to be a little tricky just because I'm lining up these holes, but I'm going to skip this next one and I'm going to go in from the back to that next hole, and I'm going to actually place 6 on my needle. I'm going to skip that next one, and I'm going to go into the following one here from the back, and I'm going to do 2 more, skipping that next one, going into that next one from the back. And again, you'll see that I'm picking up both layers of yarn that I have folded over here. And then I've got one more, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so we've got one more. Skipping one hole and going into the next one. So we've now basically cast on 6 stitches. Now you can cast on more stitches if you'd like to make a rufflier, kind of a fluffier, shorter scarf with a skein. I probably wouldn't go less than 6 stitches because it'll be really skinny if you do less than 6 stitches. But you will be using the full skein. And I do have a blog post that I'll post the blog link at the in my comment section below, or description section below, that has some detailed information about the difference between the sizes of the knit and the crochet scarves, with a standard full skein of the Red Heart sachet, just the regular yarn. There is a difference in the 3 different versions that I normally use. I've got 2 different crochet videos and a knit video, and I'm also working on a in the round video with the looms as well. So, alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to keep this other yarn out to the right hand side. Now I am right-handed, so that is just how it's going to be in this particular video. Sorry, lefties. And you're just basically going to knit in the fashion that you knit normally, basically a regular knit stitch. We're just going to go in from the front, catching this first stitch on the on that back needle. You're going to skip this first hole here at the beginning of every row. You're going to pick up that second hole and you're going to place it over the back. Make it a little bit closer here. You're going to place it over the back of the needle from the back, coming around from the back. Then you're going to just pull it through like you normally would in a regular knit stitch, and then lift off. You're going to do this for the entire row. Basically it's the same as knitting. The only difference is you already have your stitches created with all these little holes here at the top of the ladder. So you're just going to go in from the front again. You're going to keep your fabric or your yarn close to the edge if you can without it falling off your needles. You've already got this stitch, as you can see, on your needle. You're going to skip this next one and you're going to place the next one over that back needle again from the back. You're going to come through and pull off the back needle, or the front, well, now it's the back needle, I suppose. Okay, so we're going to do this again. We're just going to go through the front, skipping that next hole that is not currently on your needle. We're going to skip this one here. We're going to use this one here, place it over the back needle from the back, coming from the back, come through and off. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and work the next 3. Just keep following the same pattern, always skipping a hole. And the reason you always skip one of these holes is that's what gives your ruffled effect. If you were to use every hole, you would end up with a spiral scarf more than a ruffle scarf. And I'll show you an example in just a moment when I get finished with this row here. So skipping one here and using this next one here, pulling it around the back and pulling through. Okay, last stitch, same thing. Skipping this one, using the next one, pulling it around the needle and through. So now we've got one full row of knitted of your knitted ruffle scarf. So let me just pause for a moment and show you the difference in the regular standard ruffle scarf. This is the version, what it looks like. It's more of a spiral, kind of a bell spiral shape if you use every single hole instead of skipping that hole. Okay, so that's a little bit of a difference of the regular ruffle scarf compared to what we're doing here when we skip a hole, use a hole, skip a hole, and use a hole. Okay, so you're just going to turn your work around like you normally would a regular pattern when you're knitting, and you're going to work down this. You're going to work right back down in the same fashion again. So we're just going to pick up your stitches. Now sometimes you're going to see that it looks like it has two here, and it's just the way the yarn looks on it, but you're going to pick up the full stitch here, front to back. Okay, make sure you're skipping that first one, and this just helps it not wrap around too tight. You're skipping this first one and using the second one. Come back around from the back into your needle and pull through like you normally do when you knit. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and do this one more row. And then I'll just give you a couple tricks to work your scarf. Now, this is how you're going to work your entire scarf, and you will use the entire skein normally for a full scarf. And again, I'll post my blog address at the bottom, where I've got some photos of the differences in lengths and the actual measurements using a full skein of the Ruffle Red Heart yarn for this. And once you get going with this, you can work pretty quickly. It's kind of a little bit slow going here because I haven't unwrapped my whole yarn, my whole skein of yarn, and I'm trying to work in front of the camera here. Okay, so you see your scarf is starting to form. Now, there's a couple things you can do when you have this little beginning area here that is showing a little bit through the bottom. Depending on which yarn you use, sometimes it shows and sometimes it doesn't. You can use a matching thread, and you can just kind of crumple this up, kind of not crumple it, but like layer it, and then just put a couple stitches in there to hide it. Or you can even tie a knot in that before you fold it over, and it will be hidden up inside of this area here, and it doesn't even show when you're finished. So just going to give you a couple more tips before I show you how to end the scarf. Again, you're just going to keep working this exact pattern all the way through. It's really, really easy. If you come upon an area where in your skein, or you even want to make your scarf even longer than just one full skein, you can add another skein to this one very easily, and it really doesn't normally show in the end when your scarf is finished. And the way to do that is, I'm just going to grab a different skein I have here handy. If this were chopped, say, right here, and we were working on our scarf, and we found either a knot in the middle of the scarf, or we found a piece where it was cut, and we needed to piece the pieces together. All you need to do is take your other piece and layer it over the original piece just by a couple inches. Line up your holes, and then you would just keep working wherever you're at in your pattern. You would just keep working right through it. Now, of course, normally it's going to be the same color, but this is just for sake of showing you what to do here in this particular instance. You would just line up the holes and keep working right on through your pattern, and in the end, normally you don't even see where you had that. If you find that you have a knot in your skein, you can do the same thing. You can either unroll the knot, overlap the two pieces, keep working, or you can even work right through that knot. Get as close as you can to the knot with your stitches and just keep working right past it. Normally it won't even be noticed in all the layers and the ruffles of your particular scarf here. So I'm just going to cut this one here and show you how to cast off at this point. So when you get near the end, I usually leave a good couple feet for casting off. Maybe a little bit wasteful, but I like to have extra. And so you're pretty much going to cast off in the same manner you do most regular knitting projects. And you can either use a knitting needle. I'll use a knitting needle for the first couple, and then I'll just show you how I like to use a crochet hook when I do a standard cast off, because it makes it so much quicker. It's just one of my tricks I like to use. So we're going to again skip that first one, use the second one, going over the back and coming through, lifting off. Same thing, you're going to work your second stitch like you do in a standard cast off, skipping this one, going into your next hole. Okay, so now we're going to begin to the actual cast off process, where you're going to take that stitch that's farthest from the end, make sure you keep this stitch on the needle carefully, and you're just going to pull this stitch over this stitch and off the needle. Okay, leaving the needle closest to the end on the needle. Okay, I'll do one more in this fashion, then I'll grab my crochet hook and show you a way that I find a little bit easier. Okay, so we're going to skip this hole, use this next one, pull this one, pull this stitch up and over this one and off the needle, making sure carefully to keep that first stitch on the needle, the one closest to the end. Okay? Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my crochet hook, and what I do is I use my crochet hook as a knitting needle. So I'm going to place my crochet hook in this little stitch I already have on here. And I use my crochet hook as a knitting needle just for this last row. I'm just going to use it the same fashion as I would a knitting needle. See, this is where I didn't pull out the whole skein and it's getting stuck a little bit. Okay. Alright, so we're skipping that stitch, placing the next one over the end. And this is easy because you can just pull your knitting needle right, or your crochet hook right through it this way, and then you just hold the first stitch on there and just pull it through. Makes it a little bit easier than worrying if the stitch is going to fall off. And with this stuff, it's kind of funky sometimes with all these little holes to catch it. If you're not real careful, you can lose it and then you have to start over or try to find where you dropped it, and sometimes the whole thing just starts pulling apart real fast. So I'm going to just do the last two stitches. Sorry, I've got some dry hands here, so it's kind of sticking everywhere. Pull through, and then just gently pull through. I find this is so much easier, even when I'm working with regular yarn, and I'm just doing a standard cast off. Pull through, and pull through. So now we have one stitch left to work with. Now this one's fairly easy. If you have a little bit of a bigger crochet hook, which I suppose I could grab, hold on. I guess I should have used a bigger crochet hook here. Now this is an easy ending for this particular scarf. All you have to do is wrap your extra tail around your crochet hook and pull it through this one. So you're going to pull this basically up and over the end, pulling your yarn into that hole carefully, like so. Now I've got this hole that I just pulled it through, which was my last stitch. Now what I do is I just tie a knot, a really tight knot, and I tie it over that last stitch so that it covers the last stitch, so there's no possible way for it to unravel and fray. And then I chop it. I give it about, I don't know, maybe ½ inch or so, and then I chop it right here. And what happens is, in fact, let me just do that so you can see it. When this end is going to be on one, oops, it's getting a little blurry. This end is going to be one of the ends where all the ruffles are going to fall over it. And what happens is the other end of the scarf is hidden and you don't even see that area. It gets completely hidden. Okay. And I know this isn't a full scarf, but it tells you very easily how to complete this particular, sachet ruffle scarves really easily. If you just keep following the same pattern, knitting the whole entire thing, if you're not a beginner, you should easily be able to complete the scarf. If you have any questions, please let me know. I do have a couple other videos. I'm also redoing both of my crochet videos, and I'm also going to be creating one in the future for how to create the scarf on the loom. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.